Uh, Dear colleagues from Ukraine, I would like to introduce something about the childhood obesity. Obesity is an excess of body fat which causes the many clinical manifestation and complication. There is also very big problem on the public health, especially also in children. According the reports from European Union, in European Union, more than 22 million children are overweight or obese. In them, a quarter or 1/3 of them have clinical complication. What about situation in children in Ukraine? We performed with colleagues from Lviv 3 years ago investigation in school children from West Ukraine with supervising our colleagues from Lviv and especially Professor Sergei Jankowski. And we performed the study in the almost 14,000 school children from the Brody, Busk, Kaminska, Buska, and Radiev. According results of the study we performed, I do hope the first percentile charts for school children in Ukraine. There's the BMI percentile for boys, BMI percentile for girls, high percentile for boys, high percentile for girls, weight percentile for boys, and weight percentile for girls. This percentile are going to be published in the European Journal of Pediatrics and will be published also in the Ukrainian language and distributed in full Ukraine. According to the study, we found that almost around 40% of boys and 10% of girls are overweight or obese. In them is 2% boys and girls are obese. It's a surprise that almost 20% of girls have underweight because the overage, European overage for underweight in children is similar like in boys around 10%. Obesity is the results and in the dysregulation between energy output and energy intake. This regulation is under control the genetic factors and environmental factors. It's important that there are very interesting and we can see very proud that the evidence that for the genetic factors. So at the moment we have knowledge that in almost all chromosomes we have gene parallel of gene, polymorphism of gene have influence, are gene which have influence in the development of obesity. So only in chromosome Y it's not possible to find some genes on polymorphism of genes which have influence for development of obesity. Of course, if somebody have some gains of a number of genes which have influence for developing of obesity, in such person the risk of developing of obesity is greater. This is the cause of one of the first cases with monogenic form of obesity, which is depend of the leptin deficiency. We can also treat such cases according to use the analog of leptins. This is the same boys before the treatment and after the treatment. We need to also mention about the syndromatic causes of obesity, like Prader-Willi syndrome or Bardet-Biedl syndrome. We need to also know about the possibility of the diagnosis and treatment with causes of obesity, which is connected with developmental delay. Of course, we need to, despite these genetic factors, we need to also mention about the environmental factors which can influence for the development of obesity. There are many such factors, like parents, peers, schools, what the children eat at schools, what the children eat at home, about the what they have, what kind of knowledge they have about healthy foods. Who and what is the have influence for what the children eat, especially their parents. What is they eat at home, their friends, what is advertising food on the TV during children's hours, what is available for school dinners, what eat grandparents, what is advertising food on the TV during the evening, and celebrities. Of course, the main influence for the food choices in children have their parents. And if one of or both parents are obese, then the risk of development of obesity in children increase dramatically. The same situation is in Ukraine. You can see that there is this strong correlation between BMI fathers and BMI mothers and BMI children. In Ukraine, obesity in father's obesity or mother's obesity increased the risk of obesity in children 2 times. There are many evidence that breastfeeding and duration of breastfeeding protect the development of obesity in the late year, especially if the breastfeeding duration is more than 6 months. You can see that prevalence of obesity and overweight in those children who were breastfed more than 6 months was 6.8, and similar to those children who were breastfed 2 months and in lower time. Nowadays, one of the biggest problems, there are also the mass media in the room and influence of mass media for the children. In Polish results, only almost 8% of children doesn't have any devices, mass media devices in rooms, and almost 90% of them have computer, 72 have television, 72 have connection with internet. Both TV and computer in his own rooms have 62%. They spend every day 3 and more hours in the viewing TV or on the front of computer. This have results also what the children purchase on the school shops. There's the results from my city, and we compare what kind of products were offered and what kind of products purchased the children in school shops. And the most popular offered products were chocolate bars, crisp and popcorn, and of course the children purchase in almost 90% such products. In 34% of school canteen was offered fruits, and only in 5% of this school shops was purchased the fruits. In 7% of school shops offered salads. Nobody purchased salads in school shops in my city. You can see that also the companies of fast food changes their product during the year. You can see that Big Burger in 1954 have 2,202 calories, 2004 have 3,010 calories. The portion of McDonald's fries in 1955 have 2,010 calories, now 610. The portion of cola in 1916, on the beginning of McDonald's, have 79 calories, nowadays 194. The cup of popcorn in 1950s have had 174 calories, now 1,700 calories. It's not problem our time. The analysis of last pictures of Last Supper during this last 8 centuries showed that the size of dishes, plates increased between 23 to 70% of this picture. Many children obese have very low self-esteem, and they have also problem with contact with our peers. They are stigmatized by peers and have a lot of symptoms of depression. We discuss about obesity because we know that obesity causes many complications, medical complications, metabolic and cardiovascular complication. And this complication, which we observed in adults, now we observe also in children. We observe also changes in many axes, hormonal axes, like thyroid axis, adrenal axis. We observe that the obese girls have in the early year of age menarche and have a greater risk for PCOS. We observe a tendency to gynecomastia by boys and the tendency of micropenis. Also, the axis of growth is in obese children a little change, because the secretion of growth hormone is lower, but we observe the increase of IGF-1 and IGF-BP3, which with connection with hyperinsulinemia lead to accelerating growth. Hyperinsulinemia, IGF-1 increase, and hyperestrogenemia increase also risk for neoplasmatation. The mechanism of cardiovascular consequences lead is depend also of hyperinsulinemia, which cause the endothelial dysfunction and lead also due the and cause also due the increase of inflammation factors which is product in the adipose tissue, and also changes in the liver. One of the first changes is the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Nowadays, one of the topic is the finding that also a brown adipose tissue can have influence also in the late, not only in newborn and infants, have influence in the development of obesity. According to the PET CT scan, we know that also in adolescents and adults, in such time and in such a year, we can find the brown tissue, and the amount of brown tissue is depend of the fat depot. This is also interesting because next finding showed that white adipose cells can changes for the mixed form similar to brown adipose tissue cells called beige adipocytes, which have more possibilities to spend energy and have more mitochondria, and the depot of fat was changes in such cells. To browning such cells can lead cold and some drugs like beta-3 agonists. So the biggest and the most important thing is prophylaxis. We can change this prophylaxis for primary and secondary. We need to create and give knowledge about the healthy foods. We need to create new possibilities for increase the physical activity and focus it for a special risk group in which can developing childhood obesity. This group is such children whose parents are obese, who we observe obese in early life, and in parents and in families with low income and low educational level. So, and on the prophylaxis, about the prophylaxis of general population, we need to recommend the breastfeeding and changes in the first year of life in the food feeding, especially before the second year and during the preschool years. During the adolescent time, we need to recommend eating health for plate model. This core elements of this model are eat regularly, include bread, pasta, rice, of potatoes, and every meal eat fruit and vegetables in each meal, limited high sugar foods, limited high foods, and limit fried foods. There are very a lot of publications which describe many investigation about the prophylactic project. One of them is the World Planet Health. In this project, was performed and recommended decrease of television viewing, increased physical activity, changes in the food eating, but the results of then statistical analysis showed that the results of this prophylactic research was only observed in children, and editors of this paper noted that differences in outcome for boys and versus girls is more proof that the sexes are for different planets. I guess planet Hell is more like Venus than Mars. So who need to treat? Of course, children with obese children and families who really want to change, and children who have the metabolic and cardiovascular consequences. Who should be involved to this staff? Pediatrics, dietitian, psychologist, and physiotherapist or sports trainer. American Academy of Pediatrics recommend for children with overweight only perform this lipid profile, and in children with overweight and risk factors, additionally perform the liver transaminase level and glucose and fasting glucose. In obese children, American Academy of Pediatrics recommend OGTT, lipid profile, and liver aminase profile, and endogenous bone and keratin. Others depend of situation. In some children, we need to also changes and create goal in which we need to achieve. We need to individualize such goals. We need to create short-term goals and long-term goals, and we need to, for example, not say you can weight loss, but we can say you need to be healthy. We need to create such goals that you need be in park 3 times a week, or you need to be in fast food restaurant only one a month. Of course, these changes need to be create together with parents, especially in younger children, because parents have much more influence for changes in such age period. In adolescents, the influence of peers is much higher than parents, and we create special groups for treatment adolescents, which in which this adolescent children supported together. We need to also increase physical activity, but not exercises. We create games and possibilities to be together with families, which is the first step to the increase activation whole family. There are not at the moment registered drugs which can have influence of in the treatment of childhood obesity. In some children, we recommend bariatric surgery. Those children, there are such children during the last 6 to 12 months, we cannot achieve the good results. These children need to be ready to change and want to be able to changes their food and physical activity. And these children need to be in the tunnel stage for minimum 4. Those children, the criteria, included criteria, can also have severe complication like the diabetes type 2, sleep apnea, or hypertension. There are also criteria for decrease from such a group, and the main criteria is unable to think about this changes, especially the problem was with children with Prader-Willis, children with developmental delay. One of the criteria exclusion is that the adolescent women cannot be pregnant during the first 2 years after bariatric surgery, because there were described the cases of dead children and dead women, pregnant women, 6 to 12 months after the bariatric surgery. This operation is performed in children in 2 methods. First is adjustable gastric bypass system, most popular in Europe, or Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, most popular in States. Of course, after the bariatric surgery, such children need be on the supervising the special team consists from physiologists, dietitian, physiotherapist, doctors, and they need to follow up many laboratory investigation. So they have also many restrictions in diets, like here you can see on the slide. So bariatric surgery is not choice for everything, and only for such children who really want to do and can changes your life after the surgery. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.